Okay, Lindsay from Freedom Media, the team and myself, we're just coming in now, so excuse the bumpy camera work. We're at Parliament House, Perth, Western Australia. We've come down, the WA nurses are defying a ruling by the Industrial Relations Commission here in Western Australia. They've been ordered not to strike today. They're striking over fair pay and patient ratios, and we're just coming in now. You can hear the noise, or hopefully you can hear the noise, but WA nurses have taken a defiant stance against the Industrial Relations Commissioner where there's strike actions. Now, what's making this particular event even more, I guess, draconian is that yesterday the Commissioner of the Industrial Relations announced that the bus drivers, Uber drivers, taxi drivers, anybody that conveys a nurse to this unsanctioned event will face sanctions themselves. So not only are they looking at imposing sanctions on the nurses themselves, they're going to apply sanctions to anybody that's transported a nurse here today. So let's go and have a listen. So you can see it's jam-packed, it's shoulder to shoulder right here at the moment, and we have nurses again that are taking a defiant stance against the Industrial Relations Commissioner. They're striking for fair pay, but more importantly, they're striking for patient ratios, something that the nursing union has been pushing for many, many times. Patient ratios is where they're talking about having a minimum number of nurses on hand to deal with patients. So it's a massive crowd here. We're just going to try and move our way in. And we'll just see a very loud rally. We're going to try and move our way up.
The McGowan Government needs to...
So from here you can see it's literally jam-packed.
Such as you, the nurses. The McGowan Government currently is not an employer of choice, but needs to become one so we can rebuild our medical system on pillars of safety and quality, not only of patients but for staff as well. As a doctor who has worked shoulder to shoulder with you for decades, I respect and value you, the nurses, and the nursing profession. I wish you the best with your endeavours to be respected and valued by others.
You're
Sincerely, Mark Duncan-Smith, President, AMA. Thank you, Dr. Duncan-Smith. Now, first of all, I want to thank all the nurses and midwives who chose, is this working? Keeps fading out. Who chose to stay back and work today.
Do you want me to get it?
You have once again showed the community that their safety is paramount to all nurses and midwives. To you I say I am proud of you for taking on the added burden of working as skeleton staff to allow your colleagues to come out here today. Now, I want to commend every single one of you who came out today in defiance of this government, who this week tried to gag the ANF from speaking to its members. They tried to force myself to lie to members and tell them that their last offer was a fantastic offer for nurses and midwives. They tried to gag the members by not allowing the poll on the EBA offer. And then they made the declaration that they would invalidate the poll and members' opinions. Shortly after that, it got much worse, with the WA Industrial Relations Commission trying to interfere with private enterprise and summoning any transport provider that would transport nurses and midwives to their own rally. Things escalated yet further with the foreshadowing of further orders by the Commission yesterday to ban buses from going within a 1.5 kilometre radius of the hospitals, and the alternative was for the members to come to the ANF in Pier Street, Perth, and get the buses from there. The cherry on top was the announcement last night of the cancellation of the Nursing and Midwifery Awards night that was tonight. The reason cited was patient safety. What a crock! What a crock! There's the crock sign right there. What a crock! Okay. Now, in case you're all wondering, I did invite the Premier, the Industrial Relations Minister and the Health Minister to speak with you all today. I haven't heard from the Premier or the Industrial Relations Minister, but yes, they are cowards. But the Health Minister did phone me just before 6 o'clock this morning. Unfortunately, it wasn't to increase the offer to 5% across all the levels and increments, plus the cost of living payment, plus the ratios. No. She asked me again to call off the strike and declined the invitation to speak to you all today, as she said we were engaging in, quote, illegal industrial action. Now, given that this is apparently an unlawful strike and none of us are supposed to be here, and I can see the police looking around at us a bit nervously, I think I better hand over to the ANF Director of Legal Services, lawyer Belinda Burke. Is this on?
What a fantastic turnout. The first thing I want to say is that the ANF Legal Department is at members' service to assist in the event of any issues arising from the industrial action. And we're expecting 3,000 legal referrals this afternoon. Just joking. Second point I want to... No, we're back on. The ANF Legal Department is behind nurses and midwives, and will do everything we can to assist you get a better outcome on wages and your workloads. I can tell you that the ANF lawyers know only too well the workload pressures you have all been under, and that those workload pressures have continued to get more and more severe. We presented the truth of your workloads to the Deputy State Coroner in the recent Ashwarya inquest. Your workload pressures are preventing you from delivering the care you as nurses and midwives are trained and want to deliver. In my 23 years with the ANF, nurses and midwives have never gone on strike. The fact that you're here today shows how desperate the health system has become. And we know this is why nurses and midwives are leaving and reducing their hours. From the legal... from the legal perspective, we're behind you every step of the way, and I wish you the greatest success in achieving a fair outcome, because the WA future health system depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Belinda Burke. I do have another speaker that's going to come now. His name is Tyler Ray, and he has a few words to say for you. Come on up, Tyler. Here he comes. Give him a round of applause. Yeah, come on. Hey, Tyler.
It's so great to see all of you here today. Congratulations. My thanks also goes out to the staff who could not be here today. Without your support, we could not have come out in these incredible numbers. And I just want to we're out here today because we are tired. We're tired of working multiple staff short every day. We're tired of being stretched to breaking point. We're tired of changing roles at the drop of a hat, changing gears to keep the straining healthcare system running day in, day out. But mostly, we are tired of being ignored for our calls for help and our calls for change. This government says they care about the safety of patients, and the strike today has put patients in danger. But let's talk about care. I didn't see any member of this government put an 18-hour shift in last night, as 3 of my colleagues did, to provide care for our patients. Those 3 colleagues are here today, supporting our strike, our act. This government also doesn't care that our wages have fallen since 2017 in real terms. Instead, the best offer has been for another pay cut of nearly 5% this year alone. This government doesn't care about sick people, but we do. Our demands are to make sure we can continue to care to the best of our considerable skills and abilities. We want safe ratios for our patients so we can better care for them, and we want to count the babies. We want a competitive salary that can attract much needed staff so we can continue to provide the care the best we can.
Instagram.
And I think that salary needs to beat inflation. 10% is fair, and any doubter should ask himself if we deserve a pay cut, because that's what's being offered. And we should vote no. A few weeks ago, we had the largest mass meeting of this union in decades, and we voted for 10% pay rise, patient ratios. And in order to win this, we need a fighting union. We need an organized and democratic union. We need workplace delegates, activist networks, and they're essential as we take this step forward and fight. Because as much as I wish it, this fight isn't over today. We have to keep fighting. We have to show the government we won't accept a lousy deal, and we have to keep fighting for our community. We care enough for our community to fight. We fight for ourselves, we fight for our patients, we fight for our cares. We are here to fight, and this is going to continue. I'm happy to talk to anyone who has any questions or who wants to get organised, join, continue fighting with the ANF, I'm here for you, as well as Janet and the other members of the ANF. Oop, there we go. And my final word is a chant. I would just like to get a chant going. The nurses, united, will never be defeated. The nurses, united, will never be defeated. The nurses, united, will never be defeated.
Stay there, because you've got the mic on the back. And on your collar. Oh, sorry. By the speaker.
Yes, give him a round of applause. Thank you very much, Tyler, for standing up. Our next speaker is Loretta Murphy. She's been on the ANF Council for some years and she's our Vice President on Council. Thanks, hi Loretta.
He dropped the thing. One of the things he dropped was the clippy thing. The thing that goes to the road thing. I clipped it above.
Wow, if you don't think this is overwhelming, you'd be wrong.
The road magnet. Just don't pick the
So
one with the flap.
chuffed
The one with the
that
flap
everyone
belongs
is
to me.
here.
The one
It's really
above
quite
might belong to
extraordinary
you.
turnout for a state that's not usually a political state for nurses. And I know that because I come from Victoria, we're political.
Ivan says
The
that you
cost-
got something off the mic, so just stay here though.
Oh? Okay. I know the personal cost it takes to be here because none of us became nurses to be standing here today under these circumstances. It breaks our heart. Like many of you, I've been nursing for 34 years and I went through strikes in Melbourne where my father died during a strike due to low staffing numbers. I know the cost and how it hurts all of you to be here. But we are here loud and proud because we cannot go on any longer. Now I know you've all got a bit of energy today and that's awesome. But give me a cheer if you are just bone tired from being a nurse.
I'll stay here.
And what really
for the
gets
Instagram
my goat is when I read that we are here because we don't care about our patients. We are here because it is breaking our goddamn hearts when we can't change the soiled patient, when we've got another one in the corridor, when my work colleagues have told me continuously over the last few weeks that in an acute neurosurgical ward, they are splitting 9 patients each. They're not having a break. I've done my 21-hour shift in high dependency unit with a 15 break. I know all of you've done double. Put up your cheer if you've done a double or a triple. And after you've done that triple, when I was driving home after 21 hours, I'd been up for 28. And I'm driving home with an equivalent blood alcohol of 1.8. But no one in government gives a damn about how we're going getting home. I am breaking my heart. And anyone who's had to suffer through me on the council in the last 3 years, all I've done is turn up and cry. I cried for the Children's Hospital. I cry for every patient and family member that's yelling in my face, why is my loved one in the corridor for 3 days? I almost cried when I read that we'll give you a little bit more of your 2.4. Well, I'd like to know what the hell difference is between 2.1, 2.2, 2.2 and 2.4 doing the same work.
See, I've worked with her and she's not friendly.
Because I'm pretty certain whether you're a grad and we've lost, I mean, I love the term newly qualified nurse because we can't even give a shit about giving them a graduate program. But I love the fact that no matter how hard we are busting our butts to give the best care we can, We'll only give increment pay rises to a couple of groups. What's with that? And I've been told by people in government that it's a failure of nursing management to allocate the patients properly. I was told by a nursing director Okay, I think someone might have collapsed, so if we could just get someone over there to help. It is pretty hot. If we could just move back a little bit, make a little bit of space. I mean, God help us having a nurse in the place to help. Have we got any medics on board? We'll pause for a moment because you know what? We care. Now you know what, guys? It is pretty hot. So if you're needing to spread out a bit, there's plenty of seats up here on the front. She's upright, let's give her a cheer.
Alice.
So you know, that's what I was saying. Nurses put their lives on the line to fight for their community. Look, I want to get real. I know we need a pay increase. I get really sad when I heard a guy called Ben ring the radio and say, typical nurses trying to get extra money. We all work hard. Well, you know what? We weren't home working out our next sourdough recipe during COVID. We weren't home doing puzzles with our kids, and we were burning the backs of our throats with N95 masks. And we have stuck our fingers in the dark cold wall for long enough. We are a broken group of people. We really are. We care about our nursing. What really gets me is that the Victorian government knows that there is a nationwide shortages of nurses, but you know what? They're going to give their nurses 4.5%. They're going to give them a 5,000 bonus, and then they're going to give nursing free to nursing students. But our government, they don't think they need to make any offer, because you know what they got wrong today? They thought we wouldn't come. They thought we wouldn't care. And I beg and plead the media to tell the truth. We are here because we care about our patients. We are here because we don't want to work double shifts. We are here because we want our patients to be cared for, from baby to the dying and everyone in between. It's because we care that we have taken these extraordinary steps. And my heart is swollen today. I applaud all of you. This is not an easy choice. But for some reason, this government just doesn't care about the backbone of its health system. We are the backbone. We deserve more. And at the end of the day, our community deserves more. Thank you.
So the young lass that's had a little faint, she's being looked after, so kudos to us. We still care. Okay. I just want to introduce one of our country members who'd like to speak. Her name is Ellen. Come on up, Ellen.
I've got somebody that's going to
She might be
speak,
stuck
and
somewhere.
I'll come over and you.
Is she around?
Yeah, but as we walk in.
Here she comes. Hey, give her a round of applause. Hi, Ellen!
So, as we walk between here and Boomer's house, I've got somebody.
Yes! So, she's not telling us exactly where she's from, but she's from regional WA. And she's come all the way to Perth to talk to us, so thank you, Ellen.
I mean, really, I could just hit up the ANF lawyers, but anyway, if needed. Hey guys, this is absolutely incredible. Definitely not what I'm used to being very regional, so here we go. My name is Ellen, and I work as a registered nurse within regional WA. I've travelled here to make the regional voices be heard as well. Like you guys, we have fought long and hard for patient ratios and adequate staffing to only be defeated. To the West Australian Government, please hear me today. Too many times have patients deteriorated due to short staffing, resulting in inadequate care. Too many times have nurses physically injured themselves trying to accomplish nursing care that requires more than one nurse, but the ward has been too short to help. Too many times. Western Australian Government, what if this was your family member? We are pleading for more staff. We are desperate for more staff, and we cannot fill these staffing numbers without appealing pay. West Australian Government, you are not just failing the nurses of Western Australia, you are failing the people of Western Australia. We cannot provide adequate care to the consumers of health, and enough is enough. Thank you, Ellen. Give her a round of applause. It's a long drive.
I have got I've got permission from a nurse to read out her comment or statement. This is from a nurse at PCH. I have worked as a nurse for over 20 years in both the private sector and the majority of my time in the public sector. I have never been as scared for my patients as I have been in the last 3 years. There are shifts where I cannot physically keep up with the workload I am faced with. There are just too many patients and only one of me. Calling on my colleagues for help is also impossible as they have their own workloads. I come to work every shift hoping to make a difference and leave many of those shifts knowing that I have been unable to provide the best possible care to my patients. The care that they deserve, but I am unable to provide. I am scared for my patients as I cannot monitor them as closely as I like. We can't do this unless we have a fair nurse to patient ratio and midwife to patient ratio, including counting the babies. We cannot do this care if we don't have the staff. Every time we negotiate our paying conditions, we are getting walked over and our demands are overlooked and mocked by the government. Now I'm going to introduce Kim. She's going to talk to you about the Nursing and Midwifery Awards that were cancelled for this evening. Thanks, Kim.
Okay everyone, obviously the nursing awards were cancelled tonight due to patient safety, I think was the line, but we're not going to go into that. So what I'm going to do, we basically want to acknowledge and congratulate all the nominees while we're here today. So I'm going to read off each category, and if we could get a big cheer at the end of each category for the nominees, and then we're actually going to hear from one of the nominees, which will be absolutely great. So we have Graduate of the Year. So we have Rebecca Crotty, WA Country Health Service, Great Southern. Kim Boothman, WA Country Health Service, Great Southern. Gabriel Tapper, Women's and Newborn Health Service. And as much as we wish our enrolled nursing colleagues could be here today, we know that they can't, so we're going to acknowledge them as well. So Excellence in Enrolled Nursing, Monica Hunter, Silver Chain Group. Jacqueline Donnelly, WA Country Health Service Midwest. Petra Munro, Mental Health, Public Health and Dental Services. Excellence in Education, Dr. Stephen Hardman, University of Notre Dame. Carly Fawcett, Royal Perth Bentley Group. Sonia Jones, St John of God Midland. Excellence in Research, Jeanne Young, Royal Perth Bentley Group. Professor Lisa Whitehead, Edith Cowan University. Zoe Bradfield, Curtin and King Eddies. Excellence in Registered Nursing, Victoria Kerrigan, St John of God Hospital, Mount Lawley. Sonia Kalathal, Royal Perth Bentley Group. Hannah Madani, East Metro Health Service. Now, we know that our rural and regional nurses would have loved to be here, so let's give them an extra large round of applause. Excellence in Rural and Remote Nursing, Emily McDonald, WA Country Health Service, Pilbara. Yvonne Bagwell, WA Country Health Service, Pilbara. Susan Daniel, WA Country Health Service, Wheatville. Excellence in Aboriginal Health, Anna Moore, Child and Adolescent Health Service. Ruth Monk, who I'm going to dob in, is here, WA Country Health Service, Goldfields. Cherie Davis, WA Country Health Service, Pilbara. Excellence in Primary, Public and Community Nursing, Fiona Chisholm, South Metro Health Service. Another dobbin, Jasmine Walder is also here, WA Country Health Service, Goldfields. Lorna Hardy from Fiona Stanley. Excellence in Residential Care, Abigail Mathea, Brightwater. Linda Van Zier, Brightwater. Yagnesh Bias, Brightwater. Consumer Appreciation Award, Kate Brereton, St John of God. Erin O'Reilly, Armidale Health Service and Midwifery. Ben Sue, City East Community Mental Health. And now for the teams, Excellence in Person-Centred Care, COVID, Royal Perth COVID, Hospital COVID, Hotel East. Royal Perth Hospital COVID East Metro Health Service. Did you guys really have to say these all through COVID? Come on. WA Country Health Service, Goldfields COVID Vaccination Team. Excellence in Person-Centred Care, Royal Perth Hospital Hive Nursing Team. Palliative Care Consult Nursing Team, St John of God Subiaco. Specialist Rehab Service, St John of God, Mount Lawley. Can we have one big round of applause for all the nomination teams?
So we have one of the nominees that wants to speak. Is it Jasmine or Justine? Here she is. Hey. Hello.
Oh guys, thanks. I'm loving this. I am loving it. You speak louder.
You know, I was nominated by my colleague and I was going to the awards not to go, look at me, look at me. I was going there to go, look at me and my nursing colleagues, look at us, you know, we're doing really well, and it was a time to pat us all on the back. And in one foul swoop, they turned around and went, yeah, you're excellent enough, but you're not excellent enough to get a pay rise and good ratios. Keep trying. You know, like, what? I can only talk about me as a finalist, but it wasn't about me, it's about all of us. And they send a very loud and clear message that they really don't give a real right of work. They will work us until we're on the floor. But I love the fact that we are standing up and we are making a noise. And can I tell you, I think I'll give the microphone back because everyone knows that I love them. 20 years ago, the same government was in power. Do you remember this, Janet? And they refused to negotiate with our union. And we went to the media conference and we all wore t-shirts. And then they tried to negotiate a non-union award with us. And that's a Labor government. Shame on them. Shame on them. Thank you very much.
We've got a lovely young lady here, Fiona Chisholm, who would like to speak to you as well.
Having been one of the nominees for tonight, and the true disappointment of getting a phone call last night to say tonight was cancelled, I just wanted to say we were there tonight to celebrate how amazing we all are and how much we achieve in what we do, and that celebration was cancelled tonight, but I think today we can all celebrate how much we achieve in what we do in our patient-centred care and our excellence every day in going to work and caring for our patients. And it's truly amazing to see everyone here today and how incredible you all are in what we do. So moving forward, we just need to celebrate all those good things we do.
Freedom Media WA live from the steps of Parliament House where nurses are taking a defiant step against the Industrial Relations Commissioner, where they have come out en masse, shoulder to shoulder, literally here
Be
in Western
nice to me,
Australia.
okay? There's
The
a
nurses
lot
have
of
come
people
down.
here,
What makes
right?
this protest rally even more
So, I do apologise. The excellence in midwifery, so can we give them a massive cheer? Paula Rose, Women's and Newborn Health Service. Christine O'Connor, Women's and Newborn Health Service. And Janet Dillon, Fiona Stanley. Big cheer! Thank you.
Thanks again, Kim. Okay. I won't be much longer and we can start walking soon and showing the government what we mean about we're not happy. Before I go on and finish, I just want to put a message out to the other mouthpiece of the government, the West Australian newspaper, who have conducted a relentless campaign against myself, the ANF and our members. Some of you may have seen the headline today which said, "Not my problem." When I said the words "not my problem," I was referring to the Industrial Commission. And the West knew that because it was one of their reporters who asked me the question. And to the West Australian newspaper, I say, shame on you. The health system and the people we care for. Of course ANF members care about the health system and the people we care for. And that is why we are here today, and that is why we've taken such drastic action today. And I have another message to those toxic nursing social media sites that purport to support the nurses. One even has ANF in the title. They're contributors too, and they have also run a relentless campaign against the ANF for their own political agenda, and who even today, I notice, are posting attacks on the ANF. You should also be ashamed of yourselves, and my advice to our members is to stop following those pages. I've got a brief statement from Broome. 50 nurses had their protest at 7 a.m. because it's hot. This statement reads, nurses are a patient's last line of defence. Bad working conditions equal bad patient care. I work in a remote rural area as a registered nurse, and my responsibilities include coordination of 7 residential beds, 1 palliative care bed, 2 acute beds, and a small basic ED designed to stabilise patients and transfer them either 4 hours to Perth or 2 hours to Geraldton. Due to the overload on ambulances and the Royal Flying Doctor Service, let's give them a shout out if there's anyone here, RFDS. We often have delays in inter-hospital transfers and have to be creative in getting our patients to the critical care they require. The entire health service is run with 1 RN and 1 EN on duty, or 1 RN and an AIN on duty together, with the clinical nurse manager backup during the week. On weekends, we only have our on-call nurse who's half an hour away. We attend to the ED patients and the residential patients at the same time. We are expected to be on call whilst working on a roster. We hold portfolios and are required to maintain stock and stores for the hospital. Is that a nursing job? We order things for pathology, pharmacy and general nursing stocks like dressing packs. We are always short-staffed as we can't attract nurses to the area, so we often do double shifts or overtime or 12-hour shifts to cover the shifts if we can't get agency staff. When we do get agency staff, they often come without ED experience, and we are expected to train and orientate them. Due to high agency staff turnover, we are retraining and reorientating nurses every week, just to watch me.
A little bit of
A waste of time. Time that could be used to care for patients. Wake up, McGowan! Wake up! Nurses I am training are all being paid double my wage. We are tired, we are fatigued, and we have no family-work balance. On top of all this stress and responsibility, we are undervalued and underpaid. I've felt threatened, defeated and disillusioned. I've been gagged. I've even had the Industrial Relations Commission tell me I have no civil liberties or basic human rights. Now I'm angry. If we have to strike to make our point, then good luck. My sisters and brothers, be loud, be proud. Thank you for allowing us to have a voice from Broome. Thank you, Broome nurses. I hope you're staying in the aircon today. Okay, so I'll just conclude. In 2017, when this government came to power, we had the highest paid nurses and midwives in Australia, and there was no problem attracting staff. Now we have the second lowest paid nurses in the country and massive problems recruiting staff. This government has not enabled a safe environment for nurses and midwives and their patients for over 2 years. We have record levels of ambulance ramping, and elective surgery lists are blown out from 15,000 to 33,000 in the time that this government has been in power. And by the way, I've been told that they're trying to run theatres business as usual today, so shame on you, executive, shame on you, and shame on the surgeons that are pushing that. We need to work together. And just so you know, yesterday New South Wales had the 4th strike, so they're with us. This campaign that we're running now is driven by by you, the nurses and the midwives of Western Australia. This campaign is about respect, retention, and giving our patients the care and attention that they not only deserve, but they have a right to. They have a right for this care. This pay rise that we want is about future-proofing our health system with a competitive wage that can attract nurses and midwives from other jurisdictions. The government has given us ratios, but without a competitive salary, we won't be able to implement the ratios easily. Today's strike will demonstrate to the government in a very real way a snapshot of what the health system is going to look like in 2 years' time, because we will continue to lose nurses and midwives over the next 2 years at an ever-increasing rate. And we will have less students graduating as the nursing courses for the first time are undersubscribed. Now, I want you to make me a promise, if you can. And we always put patient safety first, and I get that. But when you all go back to work, I want you to keep up the ban on over-census beds as far as possible and decline double shifts, okay? And I want you to stay united. If we fight together, they have to give in. Now, before I sign off, I just want to tell you a quick plan. Can we both sort of split up when we do leave to march? Some go that way and some go this way. Oh, okay, follow the bagpipe and follow me. Is that what you said? Okay. Anyway, just so you know the plan, so you don't all try and squish together into one exit. Okay. Now, I just want to assure you, I'm fully committed to achieving the best possible outcome for nurses and midwives in WA, and with your continuing support, I believe we can make things better for all of us and the communities we care for. Thank you. Let's march!
To Duma's house to see if they can get a comment from the Commissioner. So yeah, that's where we are. Lindsay from Freedom Media, I apologise for that. We tried to stream live to YouTube. It wouldn't play the game, so we're just doing a quick stream now to tell you what's happening. So the nurses are now moving from here to Duma's house, where they're hoping to see if they can get a comment from Amber Jade Sanderson, who some would argue, I've seen many signs in the crowd, would argue that she's actually the problem here. But with me behind the scenes we have, would you just like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Christy Woodley and I'm a midwife and a nurse.
Christy's, and I've asked Christy if I can get some comments from her, and in particular talking about the signage that she has here, and it's saying that mum and bub equal 2. So part of the reasons nursing, apart from fair pay, is more importantly correct patient ratios. Can you explain exactly why you have to say mum plus me equals 2?
Yeah, we need to say that because currently when we work on a postnatal ward, when a baby's born and the mother goes to that ward, we're essentially allocated 6 of the birthing parents, but the babies aren't counted that number, which means at the moment we're caring for up to 12 people. That's 1 midwife to 12 people. And we're seriously concerned for the babies and the birthing parents' safety. Like, that's our main thing. And we saw in all the hospitals where midwives are, they're leaving the profession, experienced midwives, and we think that by having the babies counted, 1, we can provide safer care to the babies and birthing parents, and 2, we're going to bring midwives back to the profession, and that's what we want. We want our midwives to be there to be able to care for these people, and we want the care we provide babies acknowledged.
So we're just going to slowly move forward as we can. Can I just ask you, so you're talking about up to 12 if you have 6 women that have given birth.
Yep.
Where does that stand in terms of those bubs that need neonate care?
Yeah, so there's a certain level of, so babies that need IV antibiotics, babies that are under phototherapy. So all the high-risk babies are essentially given to our care on the postnatal wards. If they become, like they're having breathing difficulties, then they go to a neonate ward and they are counted as a patient there. But as soon as they hit us, even though they're high risk and they need antibiotics, medications, immunisations and just general, like we have resuscitations on the wards. And we are providing this care, and it's not acknowledged.
And even just normal babies. So a normal baby still has a lot of clinical care. A normal baby needs to have regular observation checks, 2 hours of oxygen saturation monitoring after birth, which is standard. We have to weigh them every couple of days. We have to administer vaccinations and other medications, which are just routine care. And it's just not okay. It's not enough for our birthing families here in WA, where we're such an industry-rich state. It's not okay that our families are not getting good care. The mums can't even get assistance with breastfeeding. It used to be standard to do a demonstration bath with mums before they went home with their babies. A lot of mums are being discharged now from hospital without even being shown how to bath their baby because it has to be so low on our priority list. And we've got all these other clinical tasks that we have to do that aren't captured in our workload because the babies aren't even counted in our workload. And we've had enough. It's not fair on our families and it's not fair on us.
And it's certainly, I guess, so we've spoken about babies in special neonate care, and that is a very interesting point that you raise, and one that up until now, I must say, that there is no particular highlighting of the fact that, exactly that. I wasn't aware until today.
This is standard care that every single baby that is born in Australia, but definitely Western Australia, it gets on a normal postnatal ward. So this workload is not counted into our workload. It's just stuff that we do on top of caring for, as Christy was saying, 6 mums and babies potentially. And it's not okay. It's not okay because it takes us away from being able to actually... So I don't know if you know this, but midwife actually stands for being with woman. That's what it translates to. We are not with women. We all entered this profession to be with women, and we can't be with women because we're too busy doing stuff that's not even counted in our workload. It's not fair.
So you have the issue, but normal patient care for the bub, neo patient care for bub, and we haven't even touched on a birth that may, even a caesarean section, that may increase additional patient care needs. This is not new, the patient or campaigning for patient ratio, but I guess it's now front and centre of this particular campaign.
And one thing I really want to highlight is we've had some discussions with the union, the ANF, because the latest offer from the government said qualified babies which will be counted, which, as Christy explained, that actually doesn't help us because those babies are actually already in a neonatal nursery being cared for by specialist neonatal nurses. But the other wording they've put in is where clinically indicated, but they're not yet wanting to define what they mean by clinically indicated until after we've signed our EBA. So we're really fearful that we actually don't know what we're signing up for because nobody is willing to tell us what they're going to mean by clinically indicated.
And I guess front and foremost is the patient ratio. We saw leading up to the federal election and the Aged Care Royal Commission, that became a topic there. And there was an ability to mandate patient care ratios prior to the federal election, but Labor government actually blocked that particular move so that they could campaign on it during the election. But I guess, and the people that suffer most by not implementing patient care ratios...
Our patients. I know this seems like it's all about us and our needs, but it's absolutely not. We do not enter this profession for the pay. I'll give you the hot tip. It's actually not that great. We enter it because we want to care and we want to be with women and support them through and their partners and their families, support them through their journey of becoming a family.
And we do want, I guess we want anything above inflation, which is above like 7.6, I think it is. So when we say 10%, we're asking for like 2.6% above, which historically, when you look at inflation, we have won these things before as nurses. We're not asking for a lot more, and we need that to bring midwives back to the profession. It's crucial to patient safety, and it's being sort of message from the government that we're being selfish and things like that, and that is just absolutely not true. And I think underlyingly as well, we do deserve it. The work we do, we absolutely deserve it.
We work Christmas, we work Easter, we work school holidays, we work shift work. I've got 2 young children. childcare opens at 6:30. I've got to be on shift at 7. So, you know, we have to manipulate our lives from a logistic point of view every single day just to get there for shift, and then to be underpaid and to be worked like absolute bloody dogs every shift. It's not okay. We've had enough.
It's not okay, and I think the public support, there's no denying that also part of your campaign is just fair pay for the work that you do, but that's your message, patient ratios first. I just want to ask you if you would want to comment. The McGowan Government and all industrial relation campaigns enter in good faith and have good negotiations, but the starting point of where they came to and the massive jump forward, I mean, it would have to be an insult in itself. So those at home, we're talking about, I think the offer was $1,200 as a cost of living payment, and it started at 3%, where I guess, now that's not saying that the police do more, and in fact I would argue that nurses have more interaction with the public on a daily basis than the WA police. Mark McGowan started with police at 5% and $3,000.
Do you know why? Because we're a majority female. I'm sorry, I hate to bring out the feminist card, but it is. Nursing is a majority female-led industry, and you know, the government are blatantly telling us that we don't matter. Birthing women don't matter. Majority of female work staff that are working, we don't matter. And shame on Amber Jade. As a woman and a mother, shame on you.
It shouldn't matter on gender, it's a skill set. And nursing has become more technical. It's a 4-year degree. We've heard Janet Ray speak about recently, newly experienced nurse, the grad program. We've seen the demise of the grad program recently. But it is a shame that it does come back to gender, because at the end of the day, there would be, again, no denying that most people would have had some contact with a nurse. And the likelihood is, as you point out, predominantly would be female. Nobody judges that nurse for their gender. They judge the nurse for the care that they give for their patients.
Absolutely.
And it's also that, you know, these babies, I don't think it's coincidence that it was in 1974, that long ago, that the decision was made by the government to say a mum and a baby are just one. You know, you care for your baby and it's not going to be included. And it's that unacknowledged labour and the care that I think is a huge issue here as well. That to say that as midwives and a profession of mostly women, that we are providing care to these babies and we want to acknowledge as well. And also, just to touch up on the 3%, I don't think you've seen a sort of movement like this. You know, it did start at 3%, but I think the membership of the ANF put pressure on our union and other unions to say, you know, we want more than this, and this is the first we've seen in a long time. And I think, you know, it did go back and forth because, you know, we started to speak up on social media, you know, out in the public and just more broadly. And I do think that was it put pressure on our union and the government. And I think that's why now we're here now asking for more. And it is an example for other unions, and we thank other unions for joining us, like the MUA, and that have been here today in support, because this is about our right to strike and our right to improve our conditions for the general public and ourselves.
And I guess special thanks, let's see if you agree with this, special thanks would go to those that transported nurses here today, because of the order that the Industrial Relations Commissioner made at midday yesterday, that they would place sanctions on bus drivers, Uber drivers, taxi drivers that conveyed nurses to come here.
We're living in China, honestly, it's blowing my mind. It's actually blowing my mind. I can't believe this is happening. It's ridiculous.
And this became about a right to voice, to strike, our freedom of speech. That's what it became when you sort of started seeing them gag us, you know, and I think we've shown it here today that we're not okay with that, you know, and we're not okay with being told that we're being unsafe, by doing this, because we're doing this for safety, which is that, you know, we got to this point of crisis. If they were really concerned about safety, you know, I think that they would have actually listened to us a long time ago, you know.
I've been a nurse and a midwife for 20 years. We've been talking about this for about 15 of those 20, and I'm not even joking. Like, this is ridiculous.
Well, as I said, I certainly understand the argument and the need for patient ratios. I didn't understand that MUB plus BUB did not count as 2. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day off, I'm guessing, because you're not here taking formal action.
Yeah, no, we're not. And we just want to say that count all babies, please. We want all babies counted. And a message to all ANF members that are nurses and not midwives, please don't vote for any offer that doesn't include all babies written in that EBA. That's what we're asking. We need your support.
Letting us vote on what clinically indicated babies is going to mean, because it's not going to help us at all.
It's a shame that you have to drill down to that sort of detail to understand the type of vote. Just watch the step here. I don't want you to fall. Thank you very much for your comments. I appreciate that.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Thank you.
This is my daughter Anna.
So that was a really good, insightful conversation here. And your name?
My name's Anna.
Anna. And in terms of, do you feel confident to actually say what your profession is today?
Yeah, I'm a perioperative nurse and I've been one for 13, 14 years.
And perioperative, I guess, the impact of patient ratio numbers for you on the ward?
The impact for us relates in theatre more in terms of what skill sets we have available and how safe we are to perform what we need to do with a minimum amount of nurses, and having safety in terms of having access to perform in an emergency situation.
Can I ask you this? So as a nurse, you have one particular view, and that's you're entitled to that, and you're also entitled to have a view. What interference, an opinion, what interference do you think that the government has played with the Industrial Relations Commissioner in putting a gag order on nurses to stop striking?
I think that it's I don't really know how to answer that, because I can understand that from any point.
Do you think there's been political influence for that order to come out?
Yes, absolutely, because they don't really want us to be heard, and they don't really want to have any disruption that's going to cost people or them.
Not quite sure what's happened. Something may have happened. Oh, there's.
So yeah, absolutely there is, because it's not in their best interest for it to be publicised that we are as unhappy and unstretched and unsafe as we are.
So I guess the decision to come here today?
To lend support and to really make sure that we had the numbers to show the entire community that there is a really, really big problem that we need to fix, and it's for the community that we need to fix it.
So, and we're mindful we've got a few obstacles coming up. We'll just get a little bit of footage off to the side here. The support that the nurses have here, the public support. Just while we get some images of that, what do you think about the public support?
I've not involved myself too much in trying to gain insight on what the public are saying and thinking, because I think it can be quite disheartening to hear the negative comments about nurses, I think, and to hear the lack of support from some people to support us, when at the end of the day every single person needs us.
Thank you very much for your comments, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
So there we go. We'll hold here. Yep, so there you go, some comments there. Just having a look around. So we're just going to double back here. So as we've just come past, you would have heard the round of applause, and that was because, so as we was talking to Anna here, we heard a round of applause, and that's because your name?
Jamie.
Jamie. So Jamie came out of the crane that he's operating here, and we tried to get you some images of that. You've just seen all these nurses. So Jamie, you might not be aware, but there is as many this side as there is going around the other side.
Yeah, right. That's a shitload. That's a fair bit, eh?
So Jamie, can I ask you, in terms of support, I know where you stand in terms of supporting nurses. Were you aware that the Industrial Relations Commissioner issued a gag order, a no strike action, and threatened to take sanctions against these nurses today?
I know a fair bit because 2 of my family members are nurses. So yeah, there's a fair bit that you don't hear, that we do hear.
If we take it one step further, can I ask you, what do you think of the order that the Industrial Relations Commissioner issued yesterday, that the bus drivers, taxi drivers, Uber drivers, or any person that transported a nurse here today will be looking at sanctions if they can identify?
Really? Maybe he needs a good look in the mirror.
She?
Because when it comes to her needing some help, she's going to want someone there. And it was one of her family members in the hospital. She would be quite reluctant to.
And I guess
pay what you need.
By surprise, you weren't aware of that. That's
No,
a
not that
massive overreach.
Yeah.
Can I ask you? You may or may not know. I'm going to ask you your opinion. Do you think that the McGowan government has had influence in issuing that gag order by the Industrial Relations Commission?
Everything always comes from the government.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I just we know that you gave your support. What message would you like to say to nurses here today? That in addition to, if there needs to be more action, should they stay at home or come out and see more of the same?
Stand up for yourself. If no one else is going to do it for you, so do it for yourself.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We appreciate that for coming.
Catch you later, buddy.
So the plan here was for the nurses to make their way around to Dumas House to try and get comment from Amber Jade Sanderson to see whether she would come down. Of course, we've heard from Janet Ray from the Australian Nurses Federation, who said that Amber Jade Sanderson, the Minister for Health, West Australia, had declined an invitation to come down because she feels she's saying that this is an unsanctioned and unlawful strike action of nurses. So even just taking those comments just there, we've... So even just making those comments there, it hasn't taken us long just to catch the back of the line, and it's still making its way down. So quite a large turnout here today. Of course, nurses are actioning for, bearing in mind you've got a cable behind you, mate, they are looking at fair work, fair pay, and more importantly, patient ratios. Something that the nurses, it's not a new campaign for patient ratios, but we just see the insight that mum and bub do not count as two patients. So that is certainly something that I wasn't aware of. We are going to see there is some reluctance for the nurses to actually make comments. And why? And I've mentioned that a number of times. Because the Industrial Relations Commissioner issued an order saying that this action there will be sanctions issued if there is actions for nurses coming out and defying that order. And in addition to that, the Industrial Relations Commissioner issued a gag order and a threat, let's call it a threat, that any Uber driver, bus driver, taxi driver, any person that conveys a nurse to this protest today, if they are identified, may face sanctions. So loving the cow horns here as we're walking around. It's actually quite a nice shady spot here. We might just cut through, go right, and go right and cut up this way. Over the hill here, and I always feel bad with that because there's the nurses here, so healthy workforce, plenty of whistles here. So can I just ask, so again, we're talking about nurses. They're not, there is some reservation because they may face sanction. Firstly, what do you think of the turnout today?
Amazing turnout, absolutely amazing.
And we've had an interesting conversation. Can I ask your background in terms of nursing? You're happy to keep walking if you want to. Yeah, we can get you there.
Absolutely. I've been nursing in WA in Perth since 2003.
So you would remember the last time that nurses defined, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't say it in that manner, but the last time that nurses that actually took out mass strike action, called like this, was back in 2010, I think it was. With the Jeff Gallop and Colin Barnett.
Colin Barnett government, that's right. And when we closed beds, and eventually we got a fair pay deal.
Can I ask you the starting position of negotiations? Nurses were offered a $1,200 what are they calling it? A retention bonus or whatever they're calling it, and a 3% pay increase over the next 5 years.
10%.
No, 3.
Oh, 3. Yes, we were offered 3%. That's correct over 2 years.
And then
3% a year.
for the WA government, Labor government, the McGowan government, in fact, to jump from 3%, you're asking for 5, but they offered you a $3,000 bonus.
Before tax.
All negotiations should enter in on a good faith basis. Do you feel that that was actually the starting point, was good faith?
No, for the simple reason that it's not all about pay. We want fair ratios, and we want to make babies count.
And that is the important part. It's not all about
It's not all about pay. It's about ratios, patient safety, staff safety, and making every single patient at in WA count, every one of them.
Thank you very much. As you see there, nurses, it's not always about pay, it's about passion, and patient ratios is certainly something that needs to be sorted. So it's not a new issue. You've been campaigning for a long, long time, that you would have seen. And what would you like to see? What do you think is an appropriate patient ratio on it?
4 on the wards.
Minimum?
Should be
So
1
high
to 4.
dependency?
1 to 2.
1 to 2.
ED, 1 to 3.
And if I asked you, that's what you would like to see, 1 to 4. What do you think you're actually experiencing now?
I don't work on the wards anymore, but I think sometimes it's 1 to 6. If somebody rings in sick, you don't get that person covered.
Can I ask you this? Okay, so 1 to 6 then. That's 2 more nurses, but really, I mean, would 2 more nurses make a difference? If it comes down to 1 to 4, they have 2 less patients, is what I'm trying to say. How much of a difference will that actually make?
Massive in terms of patient care, not having to work double shifts. It's all about trying to do the best for patients.
And there we go. That's it's a very clear message here. Thank you very much for your comments. And so we're just going to move around now. They have arrived at Dumas House. We're just going to see.
We look after people that are withdrawing from drugs and alcohol in the community. I actually feel a bit ashamed of myself for forgetting community, because without the community nurses, the hospital avoidance would be much lower. They stop people getting to hospital because they can treat them at home. So even though I did forget to mention you, and I have mentioned you now, I'm really sorry about that, because you're very, very, very important. Now, the other thing I wanted to just talk about, I've never worked in midwifery, and until I got this job, and a bit before, I didn't realise how hard the midwives had it. When I gave birth 22 years ago, I was at Kalamunda Hospital, which is now closed for maternity services, but they have got an excellent palliative care facility up there now. And I did not see one doctor or obstetrician or whatever until after I'd given birth. The midwives were there for me right through, and they guided me through my labour and delivery. And back then the babies were, they could be put in a nursery. That doesn't really happen now. They're bedside, and the workload's doubled, and that shocked me, because the babies aren't counted. Across the board. Yesterday's ICU patient is today's ward patient, and in some cases, today's corridor patient.
So as you can see, we're hearing, so we have Janet Ray at the moment from the Australian Nurses Federation, but behind the scenes we're just trying to get more people to speak, and at the moment we have
Loretta Murphy.
And I heard you speak out the front of Parliament, and we were bringing that there, and there was plenty, I guess, of shame actions. You were talking about ratios of 2.1, 2.4, was that... Are you talking about a pay ratio or...?
No, when we're talking about patient to nurse ratios, it's because we need to have a safe environment for our patients. At the moment, because there's no staff on night duty, instead of a senior staff member having a maximum of 6 or 7 patients, they're actually carrying 9 patients in an acute neurosurgical ward because there's no one to replace them. That means there's no tea breaks, there's no opportunity to go and help a colleague because there's not enough people. And the only way you can provide safe nursing care is to have patient-to-nurse ratios. So we say things like, a maximum number of 2 in ICU, 3 in the high dependency unit, in the HDU, because we have to have an environment where we can provide safe care, and unfortunately that really hasn't existed over the last 3 years. It's a really tragic scenario. I've nursed for 34 years. I've found myself doing a 21-hour shift with patient in MET criteria, which means that we were calling code blues because they were deteriorating, and I had a 15-minute break throughout that 21-hour shift. The following week I had a 20-hour shift with a 20-minute break, and it makes me really sad when the media, print media, is saying that we don't care. We're broken. We have done double and triple shifts for 3 years straight now, and the staff, the poor newly qualified nurses are leaving within a few months because they're so terrified. Our senior staff are broken, so they want to leave. Instead of been doing 5 or 6 shifts a week, I've done anything up to like 12 out of the 14 days, and it's no different. I'm not special. Everyone's doing the same thing. I just got told by one of the ED nurses as I walked here that they had 5 people in the resus corridor, 5 patients, critically ill patients, that they couldn't actually get into resus, and they thought that the previous day was a good day because they only had 2 patients in an ED resus corridor.
So very real insights what we're hearing here. I mean, 2 is one patient acceptable in a corridor in a resus?
No patients are acceptable who are requiring resus sitting in a corridor awaiting the opportunity to have care for. And having patients in corridors every single night. And it's now all wards have set up a space for the over-census patient, but they have to be absorbed. You have, clinical nurses who are meant to be managing the ward, managing the code blues, managing the code blacks, of which there are plenty. Often the violence will come from relatives, if not the patients. Everybody's frightened, everybody's scared. You can't get to the soiled patient. You feel absolutely devastated. You can't sit and hold the hand of a dying patient because there's just not the capacity for you to do that. And you can't go and help your colleagues who are drowning. We've hired a lot of newly qualified nurses, none of them who are on grad programs because the government won't offer them a grad program. And so as a clinical shift coordinator, you're trying to assist them with their patients. And once upon a time, you didn't have a patient load, so you could go to all these codes and assist the people that needed it. Now you come in, you have a patient load, and every single shift, you're down 2 or 3 staff. So that means you pick up 3 or 4 more patients. So instead of having 4 patients, you've got 8 patients. All those patients might be on hourly neuro-obs. They all have to have medication rounds. Yes. Patients are wondering why you haven't come and helped them to go to the toilet because you're still trying to give out the acute medication that they need so someone else's heart doesn't stop. You're trying to do the neuro-obs on the patient that's deteriorating, but a family member's going, my mum has soiled herself. Why do you not care enough to come and do that? We care. We're triaging. We shouldn't be triaging in the ward. We should be providing care. We're triaging the needs basis of this person's just fallen out of bed and hit their head because no one was there with them. So I'm triaging that over the person that's soiled, and I know they've been soiled for an hour. Nurses don't want to be here. This is a state that doesn't want to strike. We don't want to walk away from the bedside, but when the government says you're putting patients' lives at risk, where have they been for the last 3 years? They have done nothing to actively recruit. Victoria's actively recruiting in a tight market. We've got...
Victorian, there's ads on the TV here, mainstream media, for Victoria calling for nurses over here.
And there are nursing students here who are saying, right, well, I'm going to go there because it's free. I'm going to get $5,000 bonus if I stay in the public health system for 5 years. I've got nurse to patient ratios, and I've got 4.5% loading. What you see here are really, really sad people that are really, really broken, that have walked away from the bedside because no one is hearing us. We were there during the pandemic, and every day we were putting on our PPE, and we had N95s on that every time you put them on, they burnt the back of your throat. So in years to come, I don't know whether they're all going to suffer from asbestosis. I don't know what's going to happen. But we've done everything we can, but no one is here to help us.
But I guess the nurses have done that. They've put on the N95s, knowing the associated risks, burning the back of their throat, but they've done that for patient care.
We've done it for patient care, and we're here for only that reason. We're here because we care. We're here because I cry a lot because I just get so sad when I see my colleagues and we're so broken. And I went and had breakfast with 3 senior nurses the other morning after night duty. They had been 4 nights in without a break. They had been down staff every night. So they hadn't had a break in 4 nights. They're doing overtime. We're doing double shifts every single day.
Yes.
And, I just see them. We've all got 30 years each experience. And the only reason the ward is going is because of those years of experience. But we've wrung the rag out. There's nothing else, A person in government said to me, it's poor nursing management because they haven't bothered to allocate properly. You can't allocate what you don't have. And so, I look at the level 3s, they're really sad because they come down and say, oh God, can someone do overtime? They're upset, directors are upset because they're trying to keep running the hospital. And, the young ones have no one to support them, and they're the ones that are meant to be looking after me when I get old. So.
And that is, I guess you mentioned you've been in nursing 34 years, and the grad program, we've seen the demise of that over the past couple of years, and you've got all these, it's a 4-year degree now, nursing is certainly, so the education standards there, the clinical experience, that's part of what the grad program offers. So now they're coming in, and I mean no disrespect, with a textbook type, it takes the experienced people like yourself.
Yes,
and if they're burnt out, how do they get the coaching and the mentoring?
They really don't. And the whole scenario, you go back to Barnett government, they wanted to save money, they started culling the graduate program. Then they froze wages so that no one could get a promotion. They froze being able to create contracts. Then they decided that nurses shouldn't start on full time. They don't start on 80 hours. Then they started them on 90, then it was 80, then it was 70. This was all to save money. At the start of last year, one of our nurses started on 6 shifts a fortnight and she couldn't consolidate her learning. There were so many days where she was crying and we'd have to take her aside and try and put other systems in place to support her. In times gone by, when I was a new nurse, we worked 80 hours a fortnight, and the people in my age group now in the 50s, they work less and less. Now we've got everyone in this age group working really, really hard, and some of the young ones are overwhelmed because they didn't even start on a contract that was that big. We need to be able to be there to support them, but our staff development nurses who should be supporting them, they're taking a patient load.
And it's clear the patient ratios, and I guess an insight that I learned today talking to some of the nurses, some of the midwives, was that mum and bub do not count. So I've already put a stream out and got some comments around that. I'd like to come back to one point. There was a nurse that spoke about 3 colleagues did an 18-hour shift, and they're here today. You mentioned that nurses doing 18 and 20-hour shifts, when the executive do a long day, they go and get a taxi voucher, and they drive home with the duty of care, due diligence exercise, that they get home in a safe manner.
We can
but
ask for
there is a massive.
Voucher, but people don't ask for them because if you leave your car in the car park, you get penalised and have to pay penalties for having your car in the car park.
Right, so it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
So they might. That wouldn't be new. Parking for nurses at hospitals, parking for staff at hospital, parking for patients at hospitals.
It's outrageous why the government doesn't make it free. If you're a firefighter or a policeman, you have free parking, but we get hit week in, week out with the cost of parking, and if we leave our car, then we end up with even more.
So we're just seeing here whether we've got, may have just had a tech issue there, we'll just see. But really appreciate your comments there. That I guess that's expanding on the duty of care and why nurses don't take that. They have that available to them. However, they're now thinking about their car being damaged.
It's not encouraged to take a taxi.
Right.
No, it's not routine. It was once when it was a rare condition. If someone did a double, someone say, do you need a taxi voucher after night duty, not after a morning or a late shift. but they're not really offered now because they would have to hand them out to everybody, so they're not even offered anymore.
And I'd perhaps like to just end with this. We've done incredibly well to talk over the top of this, and hopefully we get that. If you can comment, the overreach of the Industrial Relations Commissioner issuing potential or the threat of sanctions against the bus drivers, the Uber drivers, the taxi drivers that conveyed nurses here today.
I find it extraordinarily sad. I don't know whether it's a restriction of trade, but we live in a democratic society. We're a democratic union. We're not here because we're some sort of rebellious group. It would be devastating to think that anyone would try to silence the nurses. You know, the nurses have stuck by this community. It was the year of the nurse a little while ago. It was during COVID. Nobody noticed that. And what were we doing during the year of the nurse? We weren't celebrating what we were. We were elbow deep in PPE, sweating our heads, having headaches because we couldn't drink at work. And if you were going to penalise people for just allowing us to have a voice, it would be a sad day for democracy and it would be a sad day for the state.
So thank you very much for your time and your comments. I know, and we're certainly trying to get the message out. We've heard Janet speak about the personal attacks by mainstream media. We're certainly not about that. One of the reasons we decided to cover this particular issue is the overreach of the bus drivers, of the Uber drivers and things like that. But I'm glad we're here. Thank you for your comments. It's been a great insight. Patient ratios, the most important message for me, I guess, would be the mum and bub. Mum and bub count as two, and it's a really sad story to hear that 5 that you've mentioned. The day before was 2, and that was a win. But we have 2 people requiring resus being ramped in aisles.
Yeah, it's just devastating. We're here because we care, and nurses have always cared, and we care about our community, and we just want to help them. And this is the only way that I hope that anyone out in the community who have ill feelings towards us for taking this stance will understand. I had a friend the other day say to me he was in a corridor for 3 days awaiting a gallbladder removal, was in acute pain, and he could not speak more highly of the nursing staff. And I think that's a reflection of if you're in the hospital and you see how horrific it is, you understand and you'll stand with us.
And I guess just to be clear, I just wanted what you've just touched on there. The nurses aren't closed today. There are nurses still in the hospital.
No, the nurse I've checked with my ward.
They haven't put patients in danger?
No one's been put in danger, and I rang my ward this morning. They had full complement, and a level 3 was coordinating the ward. Everyone was safe, so that's really important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So just behind the scenes here, you may have heard some of that conversation there. We've just had batteries going flat left, right and centre, and we've pulled out power packs to try and keep the stream going. From what we can see here, thank you for your patience with that. Hopefully you got the last interview and talking about that. Certainly to hear 5 patients requiring resus, so high care, high dependent patients needing or being ramped. So we're just going to bring you a little bit more footage of the rally before we end the stream, and that's because we're running out of battery. Hi Janet, how are you? Yeah, very well. So Janet, we are live streaming, and so I just want to say, those that don't know, Janet Ray from the Australian Nursing Federation, we brought many things that you said out on the steps of Parliament today, and I guess we've decided to come and cover this. There's a couple of reasons. The patient ratios to drive that message home. We've covered a lot talking about mum and bub, that they don't count as 2 patients, and we spoke to some midwives that gave us some wonderful insight, and we're talking about bubs that require neonate care, a mum that might require additional care as a result of giving birth. The impact of that alone, that's all you're asking is patient ratios. Yep. What would you say is the appropriate level?
Obviously it depends on the care needed. The point we're making is that the impossible workloads at the moment are contributing to patient death, patient illness and increased hospital stays. And we're just asking for a fair go on our workloads, and we need the pay to rise so that we are competitive in other states of Australia, because Victoria is very aggressively recruiting for nurses and midwives in Western Australia at the moment. They're not looking for police or fireys, they're looking for nurses and midwives.
And I think they're offering a $5,000 bonus, and there's some incentives to move over to that. So we've seen you mention the demise of the grad program. That's been scrapped. We saw that back in 2010 with the Barnett government back then. It's a very, very sad state of affairs when those nurses come out with 4 years experience, but they don't have the mentorship, number one, nor do they have the ability to get the on-ward practice prior to the graduation. Your message, and I just want to just circle back to one thing, the grad award program tonight, for that to be cancelled. So are you able to, who pulled the pin on that?
So it was the Nursing and Midwifery Excellence Awards that was for tonight. The pin was pulled last night, and I believe it was by the Director General of Health, Dr. Russell Weiss. Very disappointing. It's yet another slap in the face to nurses and midwives, and just not showing any sort of awareness of the good feeling that nurses and midwives engender in the community. And it's just another insult that's annoyed the nurses and midwives. And I believe the more that they do to avoid paying us, is you're going to get more scenes like this here today.
And I guess it is a very tough environment to try and get some comments, but hopefully those are coming out. We have seen some of the comments coming through there. Janet, I'd like to say thank you very much for giving an independent like us. I know that you said something about the media. The beauty about live streaming is you don't get taken out of context. Absolutely don't get taken out of context, and it's important that people see and hear. You mentioned the attacks that mainstream media have launched on yourself with a live stream. What would you like to say? To those that don't actually understand, you would attend many press conferences as to what gets published out on the mainstream news at night versus what actually happens, what you say at those press conferences.
Sure. So I take some time before each press conference to write some sort of statement or series of statements. So I can be speaking for sometimes 10 minutes and they'll use an 8-second grab on the news that night. And that's it.
You don't need to say any more than that. There you go. And we know that the 8 seconds, it would be fair to say, won't be the most favourable 8 seconds that we have. But Janet, thank you very much for your time, and I'm sure you have many of your members here today that would want to be saying thank you very much for the work that you've done.
I just want to thank all the support we've had from the community towards the nurses and midwives, and to you watching, we appreciate all your good wishes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Janet. Thank you. So there we go. So from Janet Ray, and something that we certainly have known about for many a times. I myself have come under attack from mainstream media. She's just said that she'll talk for 10 minutes and then put an 8-second grab out there. So look, the reason why, and we have seen some comments coming through talking about where were the nurses, during the mandates and that. We don't know, and we can't tell you, the nurses that are here today, whether they were part of that. That's not the point. The point that we wanted to bring to you today is that yesterday at 12 o'clock, the Industrial Relations Commissioner issued an order that any bus driver, taxi driver and Uber driver that brought nurses to this strike protest day rally today would, if they're identified, may face sanctions. That is a massive overreach from the government, and that is important that we get on the ground so that you can see just more manipulation and control from the McGowan government. On that note, we're at about 2% failing. I'm going to sign off from myself and the team at Freedom Media. Those that have commented, as we always say, those that have joined the live stream, we hope that you've actually got some insight here. It's fair to say that most of the nurses here, it is about passion. They're putting passion before pay, and patient care ratios is not something that we should not have to have scenes like this to fight for. So on that note, I'm going to sign off wherever you may find yourself. We hope that you are well. Thank you.
Brought to you by Freedom Media WA, where journalism should never be a government narrative. Brought to you by Freedom Media WA, where journalism should never be a government narrative.